My name is Alex Lopez, and today I will be discussing my lesson plans over the Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe. The purpose of this lesson is to analyze literature for these three literary devices. I have theme, mood, and irony. Each of these literary devices are used throughout Poe's work, The Cask of Amontillado, and we will be studying how Poe uses those devices, as well as how we can use those devices in the future. I will also be discussing concept area vocabulary. In this method, I will be using these 5 words: preclude, impunity, immolation, abscond, and repose. The way that I will be teaching these words is by using the rooting the word method for 2 of them, immolation and impunity. The rooting the word method involves students to decipher what they believe the prefix "im" means. And by doing this, we will research other words that also start with the prefix of "im" in order to come together and find out what we think this prefix means. For independent vocabulary strategy, students will be using the logic and prediction method of learning vocabulary. On a sheet of paper, they will make 2 columns, one labeled before and one labeled after. For each vocabulary word, they will write on the before column their preconceptions of this word, what they think it means, written in their own words, and summarizing any ideas that they have about it. Then, after completing the reading of The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, they will go back through those vocabulary words and write in the after column what they believe these vocabulary words mean after reading the story, and kind of summarizing their definitions in their own words. Now, for our pre-reading strategy today, we will be using an anticipation guide. Students will be required to answer 5 questions with yes or no prior to the reading assignment. These questions are: is it better to never forgive and never forget? Following family traditions is more important than being a good person. Someone who is polite will not try to hurt you. Jealousy can make people do unsafe things. And sometimes revenge is justified. After completing this anticipation guide, students will continue reading on with their story and go over what they believe and how they believe that their viewpoints on these questions have changed after reading the story. For our during reading strategy, we will be using an options guide. Students are given questions after the story after completing the anticipation guide, and these questions are answered before and after reading the text. For my options guide, I give a little bit of background about The Cask of Amontillado by Edgar Allan Poe, as well as asking students to complete before and after reading, answering questions on the literary devices, and again, do you believe that revenge is justified? For our after reading strategy, I will be taking both the anticipation guides and the option guides and allowing students to go into groups of 3 to 4 in order to discuss their answers for both guides and how they change throughout the reading. I want them to evaluate as a group what they felt these words meant, what they felt these literary devices meant before reading The Cask of Amontillado, and how their preconceptions changed after reading The Cask of Amontillado. I want them then to complete the after reading section on both assignments using knowledge that they gained from both their discussion groups and their after reading knowledge. For an assessment, for a formative assessment, we will be using paraphrasing. Students will be given key passages from the text to paraphrase in 1 to 2 sentences. In 1 to 2 paragraphs. Then, for our summative assessment, we will be writing a short horror story. These horror stories will be 1 to 2 pages in length, include all 5 vocabulary terms, as well as show students how they would utilize the literary devices of theme, mood, and irony in their own work. Overall, I believe that this lesson will allow students to really hound into what these literary devices mean and get some practical knowledge onto what these vocabulary words mean. As we all know, vocabulary is incredibly important to students' lives and incredibly important to creating more competent and coherent adults in the future. As for the literary devices, analyzing text is an incredibly important skill that I believe that all students should be able to utilize. And by analyzing a short story, a short Gothic horror story by Edgar Allan Poe, gives them a little bit of practice on critical thinking and looking behind the text, looking for the meaning of the text, using a nice, fun story. Thank you.